We are Soccerphiles Canada. Check us out by searching International Soccer Preview. Welcome to Series 30, looking at the players of the 2025 Gold Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Suriname. Part 2, the selection. Here we go! 3. And here we want to welcome listeners to the short version of the mediacast. And what we're going to begin with is racing through a review of what we covered in sections 1 and 2 of the full version. So mostly section 2 there. Let's go back then and list at the list we compiled for our Spotlight Review. Beginning with the manager. So manager Stanley Menso, let's call him a selection for the final squad. He will be leading them through. And then we have goalkeepers. So we had a definite candidate in Warner Hahn and 2 likely candidates, Etienne Vaesen and Jonathan Fonkel. And then and all 3 of those were selected, Hahn, Vaesen and Fonkel. But surprisingly, they selected a 4th keeper as well. They can only have 1 in goal at a time. But the 4th keeper is Ishan Court, and he was selected for the final squad. The other possible candidate, Janilo Vigel, just selected for the preliminary squad. In terms of predicting starters here, we can't predict a definite starter because Warner Hahn and Etienne Vaesen have been alternating in the position, and that was true even in the warm-up games. So that's what we're predicting, is an alternation of Warner Hahn and Etienne Vaesen. Moving on to the defence for central defenders. Wow, we don't have a lot of candidates here. We have a definite candidate in Shakil Pinas, and he was selected. The first of our likely candidates, Mienti Abina, also selected, but the second likely candidate, Stefano Denswil, not selected for the final squad, only for the preliminary squad there. We had also possible but unlikely candidate Alirio Belfort, and he was selected for the preliminary squad, but one of their bigger names, Ryan Donk, seemingly off the squad now and not selected for the preliminary squad. In terms of our predictions for starter, we think Shakil Pinas will be a definite starter. He actually starts in various positions, yes, we have him as definite. And then likely starters, just the 2. We don't have a lot of candidates here. Mienti Abina, but also right back, Liam Van Gelderen. We actually should have moved him over here because he played more in central defence. So we think he could be a starter. Over to the left back position. We had 2 definite candidates in Ridgeciano Haps and Juvencio Van de Kust. Both of those definite candidates and both selected for the final squad. We had no other candidates in part 1, but in part 2 here we had 2 new candidates. So the first one is Yannick Leliendel, a new candidate, and the second one, John Paul Boetius. If you're looking at the YouTube, you may say, hey, he's coded as an attacking midfielder, and he is, but he started one of the warm-up games, in fact his only start for the national team as a left back in the second warm-up game, so we are as confused as you. In terms of starters, we would almost call Ridgeciano Haps a starter, but we're cautious, so we're going to say he's a likely starter. And for backups, we have Juvencio Van de Kust, who does play in other positions, and the newcomer, John Paul Boetius. We think maybe he was miscoded and is actually there to shore up the defence. We're not really sure. On we go to right backs. We had no definite candidates here, but 2 likely candidates, Anthony Dijksteel and Liam Van Gelderen. Liam Van Gelderen, again, playing more as a central defender. Both of those selected for the final squad. Possible candidate Navajo Backboard, not selected for the final squad, just the preliminary squad there. And then we had 2 candidates, possible but unlikely. Sean Kleiber, not selected even for the preliminary squad, but Emil Dankerlew selected for the preliminary squad, but not making the final cut. For starters over here on the right, we have no definite starter, but we think Anthony Dijksteel is the most likely starter, and then backup is actually left back Juvencio Van de Kust there. On we go up to defensive midfield as we continue to race through our review. Here we had definite candidate Kenneth Powell, who was selected for the final squad, as was likely candidate Dion Malone, actually coded as a central defender but playing in this position during the period. Those two selected then. Possible candidate Silvinho Esejas only made the preliminary squad, and same is true of possible but unlikely Susinho Edward, and also seemingly off the squad, Kelvin Leardam. All three of those making the preliminary squad, but not the final cut. Over here, well, we're going to go through the other positions before we make our predictions. So central midfielders, no definite candidate, but a likely candidate in Renski Adipi and a possible candidate in Doraso Klaas. Both of those selected for the final squad. Left midfielders, we have Jaden Turfkruer as a possible candidate. He was selected for the final squad, actually started as a right attacking midfielder in the second warm-up game, which confused us a bit. And we had seemingly off the squad Yannick Wildshoot, actually selected for the preliminary squad there, not making the final cut though. For the right midfield, we had no candidates at all, so we can go back to our predictions here. Once again, we're not, we don't feel like there's a strong enough candidate to be a definite starter, but we do have likely starters in Dion Malone and Kenneth Powell. So we think that could be the midfield pairing. It was in the first warm-up game, but then we were thrown a curveball in the second one. So we think anyway that Doraso Klaas or Shaquille Pinas could be possible starters in the central midfield. On we go to attacking midfielders, and we begin with left attackers. We had no definite candidates here, but a likely candidate in Jamilio Richters, who was selected for the squad. But our other likely candidate, Virgil Misajan, not selected there. Just making the preliminary squad, and then we had a couple of other players at the lower levels who didn't even make the preliminary squad. After looking at the situation over here, over the recent period and in the two warm-up games, we throw our hands up in the air and say we don't know. It almost seems to be a new name every game, so we can't predict a starter. And actually, that's true on the right side as well. We have definite candidate Geraldo Becker actually not making the squad. That's an injury concern, which we're going to talk about in that section. Our two likely candidates, though, did make it. Jaden Montnor and Durano Kirk have been selected for the final squad. And the possible candidate, Rishanel Margaret, was selected for the squad and, in fact, started both of the warm-up games there. However, the other possible candidate, Rosello Politer, not selected even for the preliminary squad. However, our two players seemingly off the squad, Florian Josephson and Leandro Capel, both of those making the preliminary squad, so not as off the team as they seem to be. We do have the central attacking position being used in a 4-2-3-1 formation, and we have a definite candidate Emmanuel Ferre, who was selected for the final squad, as was likely candidate Justin Lonwick, selected for the squad there. And in this position, well, we really should have added secondary striker Denzel Jubatana to this list. We kind of did, actually, and Denzel Jubatana was selected for the squad. So 3 players here, and well, it seemed that each was as likely as the other to be starters. We had them all as possible starters initially, but then we saw that Jubatana started one and Justin Lonwick the other of the warm-up games, so we bumped them up to likely starters, but really could be any of the 3 of them. Let's move on to the forward position there. We have a definite candidate in Cleophilo Gleiter. No, and he was selected for the final squad, of course. No candidates at the likely level. 3 possible candidates. The first one, Dylan Vente, not selected even for the preliminary squad. The second one, Tyrone Conrad, made the preliminary but not the final squad. And the third one, Shaquille Stein, did make the final squad there. Our possible but unlikely candidate, Jeremy Hilterman, only made the preliminary squad there. And in terms of predicting starters, this is one of the few positions where we do feel confident that the definite starter is Cleophilo Leiter. There is a chance that they may use 2 forwards. In that case, it really could be any of the names that we've talked about, because we've actually moved some of the forwards to left attackers and right attackers, always putting them in the position where they really started the most. All right, that is the end. We've made it through our Spotlight Review. Check us out by searching International Soccer Preview. We would like to thank Future Bass for the wonderful music you hear in this podcast. The title is called Alone.